Hi guys, welcome back to math class. We're going to do a little bit of a fraction review today and tomorrow, and I'm hoping you're watching this video before you watch the actual lesson. So let's think back to fractions. So you remember how to name fractions. So if I drew this and I shaded 3 of those parts, it would be 3/4. If I shaded all of them, it would be 1 whole, which is same as 4/4, right? All right, let me give you some problems to solve and let's see how much you remember. Okay, so let's say Mr. Foster, on Monday, he is 2/7 of the way through his new social studies novel. And then on Wednesday, he reads another 2/7. How much has he read so far? Well, 2/7, 2/7, 4/7. When the denominator is the same, you just can add across the top. 2 plus 2 is 4, 4/7. Now what if I asked you, how much does he have left to go? Well, he's going to read the whole book, 1 whole. So let's think about it. How many sevenths would be in 1 whole? Well, 7. If you think about it, if I have a pie and I cut it into 7 different pieces, sorry, my smartboard's a little weird, but if I have 7 pieces and I eat the whole thing, I've eaten 7 out of the 7, right? 7/7 is 1 whole. So if there's 7/7 in his book, he's read 4. How much does he have left? 3/7. All right. What if he read 2/7 one day and then 1/5 another day? Well, now we have a problem because our numerators aren't the same, our denominators aren't the same. Remember how I showed you to do it like this, to write it going up and down and finding a common denominator? Do you remember this? It was a while ago. What number do 7 and 5 both go into? So grab your planner. On page 139, there's a really cool multiplication chart, or if you have a multiplication card of some kind, go through your 7s and 5s and figure out what number it is. I'll pause for a minute. You figure out what the common denominator is. If you said 35, you are correct. So I'm going to put that in the denominator for both those fractions. And now I'm going to switch both of them over to 35s, and then I'll be able to add it because I have the same denominator here and here. To do that, you have to ask yourself, 5 times what number, or 7 times what number is 35? And your answer is 5. I really like it when kids put their numbers above and below the equal sign. I have so many kids in that other group that don't do that, and then they put the 5 up here and they get it wrong. Put the 5 above and below the equal sign, and then you know if you multiply the bottom by 5, you have to multiply the top by 5. So 2 times 5 is 10. So 10/35 is another name for 2/7. It's the same amount. They're equivalent. You could say it all those ways. Down in the bottom, we're going to change the 1/5 over to 35. 5 times 7 is 35. So what do you multiply the top by? 7. 1 times 7 is 7. Now they both have 35 in the denominator, and we can add them. 10 plus 7 is 17 35ths. Bam, boom, done with that. The last lesson you learned was adding and subtracting mixed fractions. So say you have 3 1/3 pounds of, I should have 3 1/3 pounds of sugar, okay? And somebody's moving in your neighborhood and they bring you over some sugar and they give you, let's do 4 2/9 pounds. How much do you have altogether? Okay, we're adding here. Again, there is a way to do it going across. I like to write them going up and down vertically, like this. So we have different denominators. That means we can't do it until we find a common denominator. What number will 3 and 9 both go into? I'm hoping you said 9, but you also could have said 18, and you also could have said 27. Some people just like to multiply the numerator and the denominator to get their common denominator, and that works, but it's not, the answer is not always in the simplest form, and you kind of get some numbers that are maybe a little bit big to work with. So I always try to choose the smallest one. Always want to ask yourself, does 3 go into 9? Yeah, so that's going to be the easiest one. So now we're going to make these equivalent fractions. Again, we're going to figure out how many times does 3 go into 9? 3. 3 times 3 is 9. And if we multiply the bottom by 3, we multiply the top by 3. 1 times 3 is 3. Now in the numerator, you could put a 1 and a 1 here, but it's really the same fraction, right? 2 ninths is 2 ninths. So now we're going to add 3 ninths and 2 ninths, and we get 5 ninths. But over here, we can't forget the whole numbers. 7 and 5 ninths pounds of sugar. All right, I'm going to change my second number there. I'm going to change this second number to, actually I'm going to change the first one. I'm going to change both. I'm going to change the first number. Okay, I'm going to change that one to, instead of 1/3, I'm going to change it to 2/3. And then I'm going to change this number to 5 ninths. Okay, can you see that? Okay, 4 and 5 ninths. So I'm going to use the same denominator. I'm going to use 9 again. And once again, you could have used 18, 27. There's lots of numbers you could choose. Choose the smallest one. So now I'm going to have to multiply by different numbers. 3 times 3 is 9, so I multiply the top times 3. 2 times 3 is 6. Down here, again, it just slides over. Now, look what happens when I add. I get 6 ninths and 5 ninths, that's 11 ninths, and 3 plus 4 is 7. Technically, that answer is correct, but look at this part of the number. 11 ninths is improper because the numerator is bigger than the denominator. The top number is bigger than the bottom number. Remember what we call that when that happens? Improper. Yep, we don't ever want to be improper in math class. So here's how we take care of that. We can take a whole out of here. Remember, one whole is going to be 9 ninths. You can take one set of 9 out of there, and then how many left over? 2. That becomes my new numerator, and my denominator stays the same. So this was an improper fraction. We changed it to a mixed number. And do you remember this? Making a little wheel, we could change it back to an improper again. You do 9 times 1 is 9, plus 2 is 11. Do you remember that? 11 ninths. Okay, 2 are the same. So if we have 7 whole here, this has been renamed to 1 and 2 ninths, and we add that up, all together we get 8 and 2 ninths. I'm going to show you one more problem, the granddaddy of them all. Let's say we have 5 and 1/5, and we're going to subtract, let's do 2 and 3/4. So I like to write them going up and down. Maybe you have a mom and dad that shows you going across, and you could do that. I think it's easier for kids to learn it this way. So you do it whichever way works for you. So sadly, different denominators, so we can't do it till we find a common denominator. What number would 4 and 5 both go into? My tip, pick the bigger number, count by 5s until you find one that 4 will go into. If you said 20, you're a smarty pants. Really, any multiples of 20 would work. 20, 40, 60. 20 is a small one, so we're going to use that one. Now, I want you to think about this. 5 times what number is 20? 4. So we're going to multiply by 4. 1 times 4 is 4. Down here, 4 times 5 is 20. So now we're going to multiply the numerator by 5. 3 times 5 is 15. Just to point out, sorry. Okay, sorry about that interruption. So notice on the top we multiplied by 4, on the bottom we multiplied by 5. You're going to have different numbers that you multiply by there. Okay, it's always going to be different. So now we're going to subtract, and if you 4 and 15, subtract those numbers. If you said 11, I'm sorry, but you are wrong. You can't do 4 minus 15. So you remember what we have to do? We have to borrow or ungroup. So we're going to borrow 1 whole. Now here's the tricky part. We have to write 1 whole as a fraction. And we want to use 20 as our denominator because that's what we're talking about here, 20s. So how many 20s are in 1 whole? Think about it like this. A nice pan of Rice Krispie treats cut into 20 pieces. You eat the entire thing. How many have you eaten? 20 out of 20. Remember, when those two numbers, the numerator and denominator, are the same, that's 1 whole. So we're renaming that 1 whole that we borrowed from here over here as 20 20s. Add it up, you get 24. And now we can do our subtracting. I'll do the subtracting for you. I'm going to tell you it's 9 20ths. And don't forget the whole numbers on the side, 2 and 9 20ths. So today's math lesson is really just a review of doing problems like this and a chance for doing some more practice. So remember, you can do it 3 times. If you get a bad score the first time, if you don't get 75%, please try it again. Maybe rewatch this video, maybe rewatch the 1-9 video, and then move on. Sorry, not 1-9, 1-10. And then do your homework again. Hopefully that was clear. Hopefully this is enough of a review. If not, watch it again. You could Zoom with me. Remember, I'm going to be available probably 12:30 and after, so I can Zoom with you and do a couple problems with you. But we really want to get back on track because tomorrow we're actually going to spend our last day on fractions and we're going to take a quiz. So hopefully it goes well. Good luck.